Part 2 of the Mountain Devil series is titled Mountain Devil: The Search for Jan Klement. So who is Jan Klement? Well, he's the author of a book called The Creature, which tells a pretty fantastic tale about a Bigfoot literally eating apples out of Jan's hand on a daily occurrence. So, what makes him so special? And who was he? Well, let's find out. It starts out with a nice little recap of the previous movie, and that how after it was released, the creator of the film read through a book called The Creature and was immediately enthralled. The stories inside were so amazing that he just had to track down the author, Jan Klement, and the first clue is written on the pages themselves. The publisher, Allegheny Press. So they hunt down the guy who would have been in charge of the press at the time, John Carmichael. He says that he used to go to a lot of conventions, and that is where he met Jan. And he asked him to publish a book that he wrote.
I was at one time the publisher of The Creature.
In between the hunting for Jan Klement sections, they do some reenactments from the story, just like in the first film, where they reenacted Frank Peterson's story. Here, we learn that one day, while Jan was just minding his own business, a creature came out of the woods and just watched him, almost studied him. Eventually, Jan threw an apple at him, and the creature accepted. So he threw a few more, which he scooped up and took with him, back to the forest. That alone would be an interesting story, but hold on, we're just getting started here. The team talks to a bunch of Pennsylvania Bigfoot researchers. Stan Gordon, Eric Altman, they even get Lauren Coleman on the phone. They all agree that Jan Klement is a pseudonym, and the first obvious choice for the real author is the guy by the name of Paul Johnson. They contact him, but of course he denies it. They think that they have some good evidence to suggest that he is the true author, however. Mainly that Roberto Clemente is Paul's favorite baseball player. Change the C to a K and remove the E, and there you go, Jan Klement. But I don't know, that sounds like it could be a stretch. The publisher says that he didn't write the book, but he did edit it. And he came up with the name Jan Klement because it was his grandfather's name. A much more believable story.
We had to have an author, and so I gave him the name Jan Klement, which was the name of one of my grandfathers.
Another reenactment from the book. This time, Jan's out throwing apples, and the creature is happily taking them, when they both spot a deer out in the clearing. The Sasquatch takes off, and before the deer had time to react, it killed it instantly. Jan didn't see the creature for another 5 days, assuming he took the deer back to its family. In its absence, Jan named the creature Kong. Not the most creative name, but it'll do just fine. Not having much luck with figuring out who Jan is, they decide to move on to the where the cabin is, or at least the land the story had happened at. And because the book is so detailed, we have a pretty good idea. And no one seems to have done more research into this than Steve Coles. Using landmarks mentioned in the book, he's able to piece together where the cabin stood before it was burned down. To top it all off, that is the location that is now called Clement's Point. So, yeah, pretty confident that this is the place. Jan mentioned that he wanted to prove the existence of this creature to someone, anyone, and one night he asked his friend to come over and see if Kong would make an appearance. And, well, he didn't, and Jan mentioned the guy only came for the free beer and wasn't really interested in much else. So he decided to take a picture of it. But every time he reached for his camera, Bigfoot would run away. Despite this, it still returned, night after night. They talked to some more researchers who say that in general, leaving gifts, like Jan leaving apples out, is a bad idea, especially if it's at your house. The creatures become dependent on it, and if you stop, they can get angry. Bigfoot isn't your friend, and it's not a good relationship to get into. But come on, if I get the chance, you better believe I'm going to befriend a Bigfoot. They also understand that a book is written to sell, and in that sense, an editor will go in there and completely change the story. But even so, there has to be a kernel of truth somewhere in the creature. Finally, after a long period of time of not seeing his friend, Kong returns to Jan, one final time. He throws apples at it, but it just bats them away, and doesn't seem to really care. He's acting odd and is not himself. So Jan actually goes down off the safety of his porch to touch the animal. They hold hands for a long time, hours. Jan knew his friend was sick. After a while, Kong let go of his hand and went back into the woods. A few days later, Jan found him dead. He was faced with an important decision to make. Here he had it, the evidence needed to prove that these things exist. But over the years, Kong had become his friend. He wanted to do what was right. Besides, he didn't want all the attention. So, because of the creature's size, he chopped up his friend and buried him, along with a metal truck rim, just in case he wanted to find it again. It would be easy with a metal detector. Years later, John was with Jan, and he was giving him a hard time about his story, saying that he made it all up. So John Carmichael and Jan Klement went back into the woods with metal detectors and searched for the body. Lo and behold, all they found was a mound of dirt and an empty hole with a tire in it. So, who was Jan Klement, and was his fantastic story true? Well, we may never know, but one thing's for sure. Oh, wait. I can't leave you hanging like that. If you do the research, it's pretty obvious who the real writer was. In the original copyright at the Library of Congress, you can see right there in black and white, it's John Carmichael, the publisher. And I'm guessing this story is just a work of fiction. Maybe he had a brief encounter in the woods. Maybe someone told him a story at a young age. Or maybe he just made the whole thing up to sell books. And, well, that seemed to work out for him. But us Bigfoot investigators like a good mystery, and that's just what he gave us. I liked Mountain Devil too. It's a huge leap forward compared to the first one. Here we have some animation, an HD camera, and if I'm being honest, a better suit. I praised the first one for having a good-looking costume and hiding its flaws in the shadows, but there were some moments where it straight up looked bad. Here, it's much better, and you actually see the creature quite a bit. Although they didn't get the size quite right, the rest was pretty good and it made up for it. They actually based this movie on fact, not looking for Bigfoot, but a man who wrote about Bigfoot. That means we don't need all the castings, the howls, the wood knocks. We can focus on the hunt for a person, looking for where the original cabin stood, and then eventually the burial site of the creature. But is the story Jan Klement wrote true? Well, in the movie we have several researchers who believe all things Bigfoot, and even they don't buy his story. It's just too unbelievable. Bigfoot is real, but he isn't out there wanting to make friends with us. They've spent decades trying to avoid us, and they're really good at it. I doubt a creature would befriend a human just for some apples. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Read the book, watch the movie, and come up with your own opinions. I give Mountain Devil 2, The Search for Jan Klement, 3 Kongs out of 4.